Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is 31st lecture of this course, and as in the other lectures also, this lecture is also going to be very interesting, especially for the postgraduate and graduate students. Here in this lecture today, we are going to discuss the classification of the measurement scales. We in our daily life, we have some yardstick, we have some standard to measure various concepts. Suppose we have to measure the weight, then we can say that we have purchased 2 kgs of apple, and it gives a message to all of us what 2 kgs of the apple means. Similarly, if we say that my height is 1 meter and say 20 centimeter, then also the message is very clear. Everybody understands what is the height of this person whose height is mentioned in terms of meters and centimeters. Similarly, if we say that I have purchased 1 liter of milk, then also the message is very clear. However, if we say that I am 5 kg satisfied with the teaching in the class, then it is an absurd thing. If we say that we are satisfied 10 kilometers of teaching, this is also absurd. If we say that we are satisfied 2 liters of teaching, then also it is absurd. So, we here find that the normal standard measures which measure weight, height and length, they are not able to measure many things. Suppose we have to measure and judge how well is a song, how good is a painting, and what is the personality of our friends, how much the constituents are satisfied with the performance of elected representatives. So, here the normal measures, the usual methods which we utilize is not successful, is not applicable. So, we in fact when we measure and the abstract concepts, then this usual way of measuring things does not successfully indicate the measure. So, this is why we have to ponder into it, because in researches there are physical objects also to measure, and in researches there are abstract concepts also to measure. The utility analysis, which many of us might have done in the beginning classes of graduation, in that also we see that the consumer is only able to rank his preferences, his satisfaction, but the consumer is not able to exactly quantify the satisfaction or the utility that the commodity gives to the consumer. So, we have to measure physical objects also and abstract concepts also in research. So, measurement is a relatively complex and demanding task, especially so when it concerns qualitative or abstract phenomena. It is easy to assign numbers in respect of properties of some objects, but it is relatively difficult in respect of others. So, today in this lecture we are going to discuss this dilemma. The dilemma of the measurement scales, because the experts, the academicians and researchers, they have made our task easier by giving the details of the kind of the scales and their properties, their advantages and their limitations. That is the benefit to us at this period of time, because the previous researchers, they have done all this task for us and they have made easy for us to discuss and understand these concepts. So, what we have discussed above, we can write the scales of measurement in terms of their various mathematical and other properties. So, the most widely used classification of measurement scales are as given here. Number 1, the nominal scale. Number 2, the ordinal scale. Number 3, the interval scale. And number 4, the ratio scale. Today in this lecture, our discussion would be concentrated around understanding these scales. So, the first, the nominal scale. What is a nominal scale? A nominal scale is simply a system of assigning number symbols to events in order to label them. The usual example of this is the assignment of numbers to footballers, to basketball players, to cricket players in order to identify them. Such numbers cannot be considered to be associated with an ordered scale, for their order is of no consequence. The numbers are just convenient labels for the particular class of events and such as such have no quantitative value. So, the nominal scales provide convenient ways of keeping track of the people, objects and events. One cannot apply statistical operations, mathematical and arithmetic operation with the numbers involved. So, for example, one cannot usefully average the numbers on the back of a group of football players and come up with a meaningful value. Neither can one usefully compare the numbers assigned to one group with numbers assigned to another. We have seen football matches. In those matches, the numbers are there 1 to 11 because there are 11 players from one side. Similarly, in the cricket also there are 11 players from one side, and those players are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So, if suppose there is a football match going, then it does not mean that the person, the footballer who is carrying number 1 on his back is the best footballer. No, that does not mean. Or who is having 11, he is the least expert in football. No, it is not that. It is just to identify the player and nothing more, nothing less. Further, player 1 plus player 2 is equal to player 3, it is not possible. It is also absurd. Or player 5 minus player 4 is equal to player 1, this is also absurd. Or player 2 into player 3 is equal to player 6, this is also absurd. Or say player 8 divided by player 4 is equal to player 2, this is also absurd. So, what we observe that there is this nominal scale is only useful for identification, for keeping track of people, objects and events. The same example, similar examples can be extended to understand this scale. So, I think we have understood the purpose of nominal scale, its advantages and its limitations. So, one must remember that nominal scale does provide advantages, has use, it is not useless, but it is useful only in identification of the, if we are working in say government jobs, then we have the ID number. Those ID number also are useful for keeping our track, for our identification. So, there are various examples in our daily life where the nominal scale is used. So, we have to take into consideration. There is no generally used measure of dispersion for nominal scales. Even the averages also, they are not of use, as we have discussed. That taking average of 1 to 11 means something that does not matter, or taking mean of the basketball players does not indicate anything. So, whether this is the measurement of average or it is the measurement of dispersion, these are have no application in the nominal scale. Only chi-square tests can be utilized to test the statistical significance, and for the measure of correlation, the contingency coefficient can be worked out. So, it is only chi-square from which can be utilized in this scale. So, the nominal scale is utilized, is useful only for the identification of people, objects or events, nothing more. Next scale, which is termed as the ordinal scale. This is very important, very crucial for the studies in behavioral sciences, and this is why this is given lot of importance. It is the lowest level of ordered scale that is commonly used. The ordinal scale places events in order, but there is no attempt to make the intervals of the scale equal in terms of some rule. Rank orders represent the ordinal scales and are frequently used in research relating to the qualitative phenomena. A student's rank in his graduation class involves the use of an ordinal scale. One has to be very careful in making statements about scores based on ordinary scales. For instance, if Ram's position in his class is 10 and Mohan's position is 40, it cannot be said that Ram's position is 4 times as good as that of Mohan. The statement would make no sense at all. Ordinary scales only permit the ranking of items from highest to lowest. All that can be said is that one person is higher or lower in the scale than another, but more precise comparisons cannot be made. Now, suppose there are two brands of milk, say Amul and Mother Dairy, and we are studying the attitude of consumers towards it. So, what are the options? That the consumers would be responding. So, One option is that they would say that I prefer Amul to mother dairy. We can write it like this. So, dear friends, we are discussing the ordinal scale and we are comparing the consumer's responses to the two brands of milk, that is Amul and Mother Dairy. So, what are the options the consumers have? What are the choices that the consumers have in expressing their preferences or their choices about these two brands of milk? This can be number one, that Amul is preferred to mother dairy. That is one choice, one option. Whereas the other option could be that the mother dairy is preferred to Amul, and then the yet another option that the consumer has is that mother dairy, he is indifferent to mother dairy and Amul. So, we have here three options of choices with the consumer. Either he would prefer Amul to mother dairy, or he would be preferring mother dairy to Amul, or he would be indifferent between the two. One thing is very clear, that a person who has only one of these choices, it cannot be that he can prefer Amul to mother dairy also and mother dairy to Amul also, and he can be indifferent also. But these are the maximum three options that a consumer can respond to the study of these two brands of milk. So, these are the three options any consumer has in this study of the two brands of milk. So, the respondent cannot say that by how much degree or how much difference he prefers Amul to mother dairy. He is just able to rank here. Similarly, the other respondent who says that mother dairy is preferable to Amul cannot say that by how much difference, by how much gap he prefers mother dairy to Amul. Only he is able to rank here. Or there would be persons who would say that we are indifferent whether mother dairy or Amul. That is an option. Many of us have studied the utility analysis in economics. There also we observe that the consumers are able to rank the preferences, but by what difference their rank is, it cannot be said. As we said that there are positions in the class, first, second, third. Maybe the one who has got second rank gets only one number lesser than the first rank. However, the student who has achieved the third rank, may be possible that with the second he has difference of 5 marks. So, although we are able to rank our preferences, rank our results, rank our choices, but more than ranking it is not possible. However, this ordinal scale is very frequently utilized in the social science studies, which especially concerns with attitude or with various qualities which cannot be quantitatively assessed and whose measures cannot be quantitatively given. So, similarly, if we ask our students that how much you are satisfied with the teaching in the class, so they have no option to say that I am 5 kilograms satisfied or 5 meters satisfied or 5 liters satisfied with the teaching in the class. But they have to give a position which ranks their satisfaction. A student can say, I am very satisfied with the class. Another student can say, I am satisfied with the class. Another student can say, I am indifferent. And yet another can say, I am dissatisfied. Yet another can say, I am very dissatisfied. So, although these cannot be expressed in physical quantities, but by mentioning their choices and ranking their satisfaction, students are able to clearly give the message what is the position of the teacher in the class with concern to the satisfaction of the students from the teaching. So, if a student says, I am very satisfied, this has a meaning. And if a student says, I am satisfied, this has also a meaning. And if a student says, I am indifferent, then this has also a meaning. So, we always rank such things. However, the gap between very satisfied and satisfied and indifferent is not equal, is not measurable. It can be anything. To say that these are both equal, it is not good. Or to say that the level of difference between indifferent and satisfied, unsatisfied and very satisfied, because of course there is gap, are equal, we cannot say that. So, although the ranking has been done, but it is not possible to say by how much the gap or the difference between various levels of ranking are not defined, or not maybe, but mostly not equal, and rather it cannot be said anything about the difference in or gap or interval in the ranking. So that way this is an improvement over the nominal scale, that it gives greater or lesser and even sometimes equality of a statement, but without mentioning or without clearly stating how much greater or how much lesser. However, in spite of all these, this ordinal scale is very useful in the study of the social science and behavioral sciences. The use of ordinal scale is very rampant in the social science studies, in the behavioral science studies. We normally observed that the attitude, the satisfaction, honesty, these kind of all abstract concepts can be taken into care, can be measured through this scale. And then of course, by taking these scales, we would find that there are now advanced measure to go for very sophisticated analysis. And this is why this ordinal scale is very clear, is very crucial. So we must remember that the ordinal scale is able to rank the choices, is able to rank the preferences, is able to rank the comparisons, is able to rank the respondents' views in case where we measure the abstract concepts. And this is why in the further course of the studies and in the further course of these lectures, we would find that this measurement is very important. And there we suppose we are comparing three objects, say Amul preferable to mother dairy, and say we are comparing three brand of milks, Amul, mother dairy, and say the Delhi milk scheme DMS. So in this what happens, a person is able to rank his choices. So suppose he ranks his choices as say like this, say he says that I say prefer Amul, say Amul to the Amul to say mother dairy, and this to mother dairy to say Amul, and Amul indifferent to mother dairy. This was the earlier thing. But suppose we are comparing three. So one can say he prefers Amul to mother dairy, and he prefers mother dairy to say DMS. But the same person cannot say that he prefers DMS to Amul. The transitivity is maintained in this concept of the scale. So, what I was telling that the person can prefer say Amul to mother dairy, and he can prefer this to the DMS. But the same person cannot say that I prefer DMS to Amul. This transitivity is maintained in the choices. Ranking is maintained. So, if somebody say ranks butter more than say yogurt and ranks yogurt more than the milk, then it means that he ranks butter more than the milk also. So, this transitivity is maintained. These are some basic things about the ordinal scale. And since this scale is able to rank all the choices, all the preferences, and this is why the ordinal scale is very popular in behavioral studies. I hope that I have been able to clear the concept of ordinal scale. Next is the interval scale. What is interval scale? In the case of interval scale, the intervals are adjusted in terms of some rule that has been established as a basis for making the units equal. The units are equal only insofar as one accepts the assumptions on which the rule is based. Do have an arbitrary 0, can have an arbitrary 0, but it is not possible to determine for them what may be called an absolute 0 or the unique origin. The primary limitation of the interval scale is the lack of a true 0. It does not have the capacity to measure the complete absence or trait of a characteristics. The Fahrenheit scale is an example of an interval scale among numbers, in that when one can add and subtract the numbers on this scale, an increase in temperature from 30 to 40 degrees involves the same increase in temperature as an increase from 60 to 70 degree. But one cannot say that the temperature of 60 degrees is twice as warm as the temperature of 30 degree, because of both numbers mean different factors. Further, in measuring the temperature, we have a 0 which is in fact arbitrary. It is not that 0 means 0 temperature, but 0 has been defined that it is the temperature where water freezes. It is a 0 which does not mean absence of that quality or absence of that trait. Something has been fixed by the scientists. However, in this scale, what we observe, that it is an improvement over the ordinal scale in the sense that the intervals have been defined. We cannot operate, of course, multiplication or division, but the plus minus is available here. The difference between 30 and 40 degree and 60 and 70 degree is very clear, because it involves the same increase in temperature as an increase from 60 to 70. The difference of temperature between 30 to 40 is same as between 60 to 70. However, again we cannot say that a 60 degree, a commodity at 60 degree is twice warm as a commodity at 30 degree, or a commodity at 30 degree is half warm as compared to a commodity at 60 degree. So, although it is an improvement over the previously discussed ordinary scale, but in this scale we have the gaps or the differences defined, and of course the 0 is something which has also been defined and fixed by the scientists, and does not in fact mention the does not mean its 0 does not mean the absence of total absence of that trait or quality. These scales provide more powerful measure than ordinal scales. For interval scale also incorporates the concepts of equality of interval, whereas this was not possible in case of the ordinal scale that we studied before this. So, interval scale is something which is an improvement over the previous scale, and this is why it is because it defines the gap. Then the final scale is the ratio scale. The ratio scales have an absolute or true 0. What does it mean? A true 0 means 0. If there is 0, we say that we have 0 length of cloths, it means there is no cloth at all. If we say 0 kg of apple, then it means no apple. If we say 0 liters of milk, then it means no milk. So, it is every thing that is present in the ratio scale. One can utilize it in any way one wants. This scale permits the researcher to compare the intervals or differences also. For example, the 0 point and a centimeter scale indicates the complete absence of length or height, but an absence of 0 in terms of theoretically unobtainable and means a concept existing only in the scientist's mind. The number of incorrect traffic rule violations and the number of incorrect letters in a page of typing a script represent scores on the ratio scales. Ratio scales represent the actual amounts of variables measures of physical dimensions such as weight, height, distances. These are the very important examples. Generally, all statistical techniques can be used with ratio scale measures, but the care it has to be careful to carry out with real numbers. This can be carried out with the ratio scale values. So, the the what the any kind of statistical techniques can be utilized to for this in the measurements that is done through the ratio scales. Thus, proceeding from the nominal scale, the least type of scale, to ratio scale, the most precise relevant information is obtained increasingly and gradually. So, that was the ratio scale. So, we have discussed the nominal scale, the ordinal scale, and we have discussed the interval scale, and we have discussed the ratio scale, and we also observed the increasing level of measuring capacity of these scales. We started with nominal scale, which was only for identification. Then we went for the ordinal scale, which ranked the choices. Then we went to the interval scale, which defined the interval, which was not defined in the rank scale. And then we finally arrived at the best scale. Best means complete scale, that is the ratio scale, where everything is possible, every measurement is possible, any measurement is possible, and any kind of statistical measures can be applied to these data which have been obtained through the ratio scale. Here we can here we are looking at a table which gives you the summary of the scaling techniques for both of them, nominal, ordinal, interval and ratio. Here we find that nominal scale is only named for nominal as far as property is concerned, whereas ordinal is naming and ranking, whereas interval is naming, ranking and equal intervals, and ratio in the ratio scale naming, ranking, equal intervals, and 0 is present. While taking the nature of measurement, nominal scale is the used for categorical scaling, whereas ordinal is used for ranking, and the interval is used for scoring, and the ratio for scoring. For example, in the nominal scale, we can say when we measure gender, we can say male and female. Residence, rural or urban. In ordinal scale, we measure caste, high, intermediate castes. Income, upper class, upper income class, middle income class, low income class. In interval scale, IQ of A is 25% higher than B. Age, A is twice as old as B. Then IQ in ratio scale, IQ of A, intelligence quotient of A to B is 1:1.5. Age, ratio of B to A of age is 1:2. Nature of underlying construct, in nominal it is discrete, in ordinal it is discrete or continuous, and interval it is continuous, ratio it is continuous. Then mathematical functions, nominal none can be done, ordinal none can be done, whereas in interval only addition and subtraction could be done, whereas in ratio addition, subtraction, division and multiplication, everything is possible. As far as statistical tests are concerned, in nominal we can use the chi-square test, lambda test, etc., whereas in ordinal we use the U test, Spearman's gamma test, these are Spearman's rho test, gamma test, these are used. Whereas in interval we have the Pearson's R and the T test, whereas in the ratio scale, we can use Pearson's R and t-test, or also various kind of tests that we have not been shared here. So, respected students, I have been able to quickly in fact cover the classification of measurement scales. I wish I have made it clear to all of you the concept of the classification of measurements. With this I take your permission to leave. Thank you very much.